Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Whiskey Conversation podcast. Fellas, what's up, man? What up, y'all?
What's up? You know we straight.
It's that time again.
Listen here, we back for the first time,
again.
the third time.
Official this time.
But we official. We in the studio,
first
man.
time. Back for the mighty
Man,
third
shout
time.
out to Elevated Relief, man, for this opportunity, allowing
Appreciate
us
you.
to be in here. We definitely appreciate it. But as always, fellas, we're going to start this off with a toast.
Okay, cool.
We do sip the whiskey, libations as we go.
Yes.
Libations.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To a great show.
Okay.
So today we are on Slow and Low.
Good morning.
That's more.
Rock and Rye, Slow and Low. We do sip whiskey, of course. That's why it's called Whiskey Conversations. We sip whiskey while we talk. But we're going to go around, man, introduce ourselves for the third time again.
For the
We
third
don't need
first
to
time.
know that. We need to sound cooler than we are.
Hey, players mess up. It is what it is. So we're going to start to the left.
How far left?
Because
Down.
To the left, to
to
the left?
the left, to the left.
Everything you own
You
in a
know,
box
Seeing that
to
you
the
was
left.
Not
To
in my
the
box
left.
since you was never at my house.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, everybody. My name is Mr. Melage. Back at it once again.
It's Millage.
Millich.
Bro, y'all always hate me. If you fancy, you say Melage.
You got to explain that.
Melage.
That's like saying Tarjay.
I'd like to keep it noted that
Our
I've
names
always
explain
called you by your
themselves.
name
I
correctly.
was trying to make this short and sweet, but y'all opened the
I
box
call
already.
Chick-fil-A Chic-fil-A.
Boy, you just...
It's my
Chick-fil-A?
favorite French restaurant. You feel me?
Chick-fil-A?
All right, let's
All right, guys.
Let's let Mr. Millage finish.
So my name is Brian Millich. Millich like village. However, my brand is called the Melage. If you didn't notice, now you know. I actually style men and women on their daily occasions, and I help them get dressed to their best.
Ooh.
So if you want or need my help, feel free. TheMillage.com. The Melage. So for my 9 to 5, I actually help homeless children fundraise. So I help try to progress their lives and their families. So we end up, fundraising for them, raising awareness, and a few other things. But I'm a part of this great group because I feel like men should come around together at a great round table or a square table or a triangle table, have a good time eating, drinking, and talking about the stuff that everybody else talks about.
I don't think we know what this shape is.
Yeah, just more.
It's a nice table.
This
though.
is
That's like an octave circle.
A
It's a
trapezoid
table
rhomboid.
alone.
That's new. I've never heard
It's a
that.
nice table, though.
Octave circle, yeah.
So just be ready, guys. It's going to be fun. Appreciate
Yeah.
y'all having me on the group and
Octatingle.
introducing myself for the third time.
Well, how's it going, everybody out there? My name is Jacob Clayton, also known as the Image Ambassador. The Image Ambassador.
You the man when people only know you by your IG handle.
Right? Oh, you the Image Ambassador. That's me.
What's your
Jacob Clayton. Jacob Clayton is the real name.
So Image ain't your first name?
No, but some people call me that.
Really?
Some people literally call me
Well,
that.
in reference to what Brian said, it's Amage. Ambassador.
You gotta be fancy. You gotta be fancy with it.
That's funny because I got called Mike T. the Gen a lot this weekend, too.
That's your name in my phone.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
wanted to
Mike.
let you know that.
Gent.
I got you as...
I save people by Instagram names.
I do, too. I got you as Jacob Image Ambassador.
Okay, my
hashtag.
man.
I mean, not hashtag, but in parentheses.
My man.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
So, in regards to what I do, I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm an empowerment speaker. I travel doing Dress for Success events at high schools, colleges, universities, churches, and conferences. Everything from personal branding and how to properly dress professionally. I'm also a custom clothier, so I sell custom suits, shirts, trousers, and menswear accessories. And last but not least, I'm a social media specialist, so I pretty much, teach entrepreneurs and influencers how to grow on Instagram, everything from content creation to monetization. So it's a little bit about me. And again, you can follow me on IG at image_ambassador.
that was
That
great.
was nice.
I feel like that was a nice
was
little
very
outro
nice.
right there. I feel like that was
nice.
that was smooth.
Like, we could end the show right there on your
Let's not.
description.
Austin got a lot to say today.
Brother Austin, we're going to go ahead with you, man.
Okay.
I mean, you the least brother, but we're going
He's
to
still
go
a
ahead.
brother.
Just call me Elmer. Sorry. So my name is Austin. My Instagram handle is at Gentleman's Avenue. I work in the menswear industry, but I do not sell clothes. I sell an experience.
Boy, talk about it.
Through
Church.
luxury. I sell confidence.
Church.
I sell opportunity.
Church.
And
Through
you
the
said
art
he
of
wasn't a
dress.
brother, Mike. You tripped.
Tabernacle.
Oh, my
boy.
God.
Boy, good.
If
Boy,
you
you
turn
good.
your hymnals, sorry.
Oh, he was ready.
He went south real quick. Hold on.
But I have a little bit of skin in the game in the custom clothing industry. It's my passion. It's what I love doing, and I love being around like-minded people. So here we are. Let's go to the wild card, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wild card.
Wild card.
Wild
He done
card.
eating.
Wow.
You get the lettuce at
It's
the
his
teeth
nickname.
and
Y'all will see
everything.
why.
Everything good. But my name is Calvin J. I am a poet / speaker down here in Dallas, Texas. Originally from East St. Louis, Illinois.
Mr. Two Buttons.
It's the 2 buttons that some people may call me. This is the rare occasion that all my buttons are buttoned up today.
You'll never see it again.
Look at this man. Look at
The
him.
rare occasion. Thank you. Unlike these other gentlemen, I am not a clothier persona. I am simply just a poet. 9 to 5. I do work as a banker. So that's a little bit about me. They call me Wild Card for reasons that you will find out if you tune into this podcast.
Real quick.
And it goes 0 to 100 very fast.
Very
Because
fast.
of you?
Very fast.
100 or 100?
100.
100. There we go. There we go.
100.
He's not lying, ladies and
Also,
gentlemen.
that's
He is definitely.
H-U-N-N-I-T.
He,
Do it.
That's how you spell it. H-U-N-N-I-T.
Shout out to
Oh, I
Black
thought there was
Men's
a
Wear
D,
in
so it's
Dallas.
a T.
Yes.
100.
100.
100. Got it.
Definitely. So I am Michael Anthony Taylor Jr., Mike T, the gent on IG. I like long walks on the beach.
Again, this is not Match.com.
He is pigeon-toed and bow-legged. That's
Christian Mingle for everybody tuned in. It's just farmers only.
No, you cannot find me on Christian Mingle because I am married, heavily married,
Okay.
with 2 kids. Shout out to my wife Christine, and shout out to my kids, my daughter, 3 years old, Cadence, and my son, who will be 1 in a week. Michael Anthony Taylor.
shout
the
out to
third.
Kool-Aid shots next Saturday.
We call him.
AKA
We
Tank.
call him Tank, baby. That's
Happy
my
early
boy.
birthday.
If you see this boy, he is a tank.
He is a tank.
He's gonna be
man.
a
Came out
boss.
10 pounds. He's almost 30 pounds already. He will be a beast. But oh yeah, we can't pick him up. No
He got them Mike jeans.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, let me tell you something, because I didn't get this belly until I got older. So don't be talking about these Mike
That's
jeans.
masculine right there.
You know what I'm saying? That's very masculine. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of masculine, I like that how you did that, Brian.
That's a good segue.
Speaking of masculine, that is,
Here we go. Let's
that
do
is
it.
the topic
Good
for the
time,
day. We're talking about masculinity.
Masculinity.
Is it male masculinity or just masculinity?
You just said
I feel like it's the same.
masculinity.
I said what?
I
Same.
think male masculinity is redundant because it's
Yeah.
the same.
It's a double negative.
But we got some women. Never mind.
No.
We're going to talk about masculinity
that.
out here today. I'm sorry. I almost went there. But yeah, masculinity. So as it pertains to today's society. So fellas, what are your thoughts on masculinity? I have a few myself, but I want to hear from y'all first.
Okay.
Well, let's have you start though.
Yeah, you know.
Since you already have a general idea, let's have you start, and then we'll kind of go off that.
Well, I think it's dying.
What do you define as masculinity that's dying though?
Well, and let me say this. I don't want to say, because I know gone are the days of old school. I feel like our dads were definitely tougher than us. Their dads were tougher than them.
Yep.
And so I feel like each
Generation
with
gets
each
softer.
generation, pretty much, with each generation is getting softer. So I was I went back and coached my Pee Wee team football, and I just noticed the difference from when we were growing up and playing football to what I was coaching. And so just some of the crying and whining, and that doesn't mean you're not masculine, but just little things like that. And I find myself even now being hard on my son because and he's not even 1. And so I have to remember that he's a baby. He's crying. I'm like, man, what you crying for? But that's how he
Stop being a baby.
I mean, that's how that's how he lets me know. But it's because I've been around other kids and I guess other men that I just don't feel like hold that masculinity banner.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Am I making sense? If I'm not, say
No,
so.
You making sense?
Okay.
Let me branch off on that. All right. Since we talking masculinity, I feel like a lot of times, especially in regards to young men, right? A lot of times, I work with a lot of youth that grow up in single parent households that are being raised by a single mother.
Definitely.
Right. So they don't necessarily have a father or a male role model in their lives to look up to.
Definitely.
And a lot of times, they're being told, be a man, don't cry, suck it up. You can't tell somebody to be a man and they don't even know what a man is.
Yep.
They don't know how to define it. They've never seen it. They haven't experienced it. So when you tell somebody to, be a man, suck it up, throw some dirt on it, men don't cry, it's because they haven't been exposed to those emotions in the first place that they don't know how to react.
I definitely agree with you because I myself grew up in a single parent home. but I was fortunate enough that I had enough male figures around me with uncles, older cousins, and things like that I saw masculinity. I won't say how a man is always supposed to act.
Yeah.
They did the best they could.
But you had an example.
But I had an example of masculinity. So I definitely agree with you and think that's a huge issue in the fact that we have is because broken homes.
Yeah.
100%.
And so that's what I've come down to, but I was saving it for later. That was going to be the solution.
Yeah.
But I want to, go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry.
So one thing, when you first brought this up, my first thought was masculinity, especially nowadays, is not something that's celebrated. We celebrate, feminism. We celebrate, all these different points of view, and there's nothing wrong with women. Women are beautiful. Women are strong. Women are wonderful. But for masculinity, it's something that's not encouraged. And there's a difference between masculinity and just pure domination, because a lot of people associate masculinity with pure domination. Like, if I'm not on top of everything, then I'm not a man. You can still be a man and admit defeat. I think it takes more of a man to admit that you've been defeated and that you're wrong, So I think that's a really big component that it's not celebrated. Now you can still, and I think, in masculinity, for me, I always try to be a gentleman. I try to be an elegant gentleman, and I always try to carry myself above and beyond what's expected. And one thing in the term gentleman is gentle. So men can still be gentle. All of our words don't have to be harsh. Like when we're around our bros, we can kid and cut up because we know it's not. I'm trying to hurt you. It's just that's how we bond. That's how men's minds work. But around women, we have to be a little bit different. And so our last conversation, we talked about gender roles, and I had made a comment last time that a woman was not made to do everything a man can do. A woman was made to do everything a man could not do. So it's a puzzle piece that works together for one common goal.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything there?
Y'all ready for the wild card?
Oh, Jesus.
Wild
Hold on,
card is
Brian.
ready.
Give your input because
I want to hear this first.
Because the wild card.
I really want to hear this.
Let
Let's
me,
go.
oh, Jesus. Y'all pray now.
Masculinity.
Why you sound
First off,
like you was about to spit one of your poems?
Like a spelling bee or something.
I think when you talk about kids and football and how young boys today are soft and watching them like grow up compared to how we grew up, it's whenever DCFS got in the middle of parenting. That's when masculinity to me went down the drain, because we can talk about broken homes. It was broken homes when we were growing up. It's the same story.
True.
That's right.
But I think the thing that changed masculinity was the way that parents parent young boys.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of parents that let young boys have their way all the time, or like throw temper tantrums or things like that, instead of disciplining them and showing them, no, like as a man, like, yes, you can cry if you're going through something emotionally that's affecting you and things like that. You can cry. But as a man, there's certain emotions that you should be taught to have, and temperament that you should be taught to have. And I feel that parenting has steered away from that, because you can't hit your kid with a belt. I got hit with a belt, hanger, broomstick, everything.
Anything that was near.
Anything.
Yep.
And with parenting, you cannot do that anymore. And I think that allows young boys to continue to grow up age after age after age and get this sense of entitlement, because they're so used to, well, mom can't hit me, because then I could just call the police or call the assistants, or I could tell somebody. So they just grow up. Punishment cool, but punishment don't teach you nothing. Like you don't learn a temperament from go to your room or you on punishment for a week. They don't train you.
So do you think, and I think I already know the answer to this, but I just want to hear you say it. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's manly to cry? Because some people say
I do.
Men can't cry, men don't cry.
I will say that my whole life I never saw my dad cry. I think I maybe saw him cry maybe one time, and that was when like he was on the last week of him living, and like stuff started going south. That was the first and only time I ever saw my dad cry. But before that, I never saw my dad cry, never saw my granddad cry. It's like those older men, they don't cry. Like
They don't.
They it's
They
no
definitely
emotion, it's stone face. So like when you
100%.
grow up and you don't see it, like we cried like growing up, but from them, like they didn't cry.
And
or they didn't show emotion. They might have cried in their own.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. I think it was when everybody was in the bed by themselves. That was their time to release. Because I find, myself, I'm really not a crier. I get emotional, but I don't cry. And so I probably can count on one hand how many times I've cried in my adult life.
You didn't cry after no football game, Mike?
No. I was mad, but I ain't cry.
I know shed some tears after the whole.
Oh man, it happens. It happens. But so I don't know. Yeah, I think men cry. I'm not gonna say a real man cry, but you brought up something about parenting, and I wanted to pose this question.
Touch on it.
So with this day and age, of course, is probably our generation is very sexual, right?
True.
So I've noticed that in times before, parents have also gotten younger.
I was just about to say that.
So
kids raising kids.
Exactly.
Ain't no big mama no more.
So with that being said,
ain't no big mama.
Exactly.
No more.
So with that being said, yeah, your grandmama is like 36 and your mom, never mind. But with that being said, do you think that's an issue with how young men are being raised with the decline in masculinity? Do you? And I'm throwing that out to everybody. Brian, let me hear. We're gonna come back to you, but Brian, let me hear what you.
So I definitely think that's an issue that as our parents get younger, a lot of the things that were taught to us are no longer in perspective. They aren't taught to the younger generation. So I feel like as a 16, 17, 18-year-old mother, you don't know half the stuff that your mother was taught at that age, let alone when she was taught in her 30s and her 40s. So you're having to learn that on the fly as opposed to being taught. And I definitely think when it comes to young men, I mean, due to the fact that a lot of young men were raised by single mothers. So, of course, some mothers have a lot of history, a lot of wisdom that not only they carried through their childhood and their adulthood, but they also gained from marriage or relationships or whatever it is. And so they were able to teach those children or those young men. But if you have a young child, like you all mentioned earlier, teaching a young child, they pretty much learning the same shit at the same time, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's like you're teaching babies how to barely be a child. You don't even have the time to teach a child how to be an adult because you're not even an adult yourself. Exactly. And by the time you become an adult, you're having to teach your child what you learned at their age. And it was like a few years ago.
Definitely.
So I think that not only when it comes to single parent homes, mothers specifically, that some women have to step up and raise their children to be grown men and grown women because they may not have that male figure in their life because they may not be married. Yeah. Or they may have lost their fiance or husband or whatever it may be, and they may have lost the father to their child. Definitely. But needless to say, I think that also that it's okay for women to have some masculinity in them. And I say this because of two reasons. I want to see what the wild card is going to say, but also because it has truth to it. I mean, if we go way back, where did women come from? Last time I checked, they came from us. So it's only right that they carry some of our features in some ways, forms, and fashions. And our mindset, especially because if we can't hold up to our household, who keeps us in check as a male? It's usually the woman. Mm-hmm. So if we don't do right, they got to do right for us and by us and to us and for the ones who bear us or the ones that we bear. So
definitely. Let me touch on that real quick. Cause let me throw this caveat in. I will say I don't want any of the single moms or young moms to think that we're coming for y'all. We're not, because
definitely not.
I came from a single parent home.
You are beasts.
And
you
my
are
mom,
a beast.
Yeah, my mom was great and did her thing for me as a kid growing up. So we definitely appreciate all single moms. Yeah. I just want to put that out there. But we just having a conversation about masculinity and some of the reasons we feel like it's on the decline. So Jacob, go ahead.
Yeah. Shout out to the single mothers though, for real.
Amen. Amen.
That it takes a strong woman to be a single mother. It's hard being a black woman, period. Amen. In this day and age. Straight up, black women are the strongest women, the strongest people on the planet. But this is what I will say, just in regards to what you just said. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this, but I do not believe, and I'll have everybody else chime in, I do not believe a woman can teach a man how to be a man. Yep. They can't. Like that boy, that child, that kid, that young man is going to have another male in his life. Period. Brother, if that's in the form of a father, a brother, a uncle, it doesn't matter, but he's going to have some sort of father figure or male role model in his life, because a woman cannot teach him the same things that a man can. That's period. And a lot of women, feel some type of way about that. When Mother's Day comes around and Father's Day comes around, they say I'm the mother and the father. Yeah, I was mom and dad. I'm gonna celebrate both holidays.
No, you was
and
mom.
That's cool and all, but Mother's Day was made for you. You know what I'm saying? And the fathers deserve that same respect on their day. There aren't too many fathers running around saying, I celebrate Father's Day and Mother's Day because I did both. So I don't think that a mother can teach her son how to be a man. I don't. That's just my perspective.
I have to say that I definitely agree with that, man.
Absolutely.
I do feel like you need some type of male influence. A young boy needs male influence in his life, whether it's verbally or he just has that example of seeing him. I will say I've had men that I pulled from in my life. I told you I came from a single parent home, but I say that, let me say this. My dad was in my life, so I'm not going to say like my dad wasn't in my life. So I still had my dad in my life. It was just my mom a good majority of the time. And so there were still examples around that I could see. They might not have always talked to me, but I could see that, chivalry, that I'm supposed to open the door or stand up straight, look a man in his eye when you know what I mean, when you shake his hand or when you're talking to him. So those examples stuck with me from other men that I've seen and how they carried themselves. But I'd like to hear some more feedback from you guys. Austin, hope you got anything, man?
Okay, there were a lot of rabbit trails that we went off. What was the centralized focus in the question again?
So Jacob brought up the point that he feels like that women can't teach a boy how to be a man.
Yeah, especially in this day and age, we've lost what masculinity means. And I mean, as I alluded to earlier, we don't necessarily support it and celebrate it, which, too much of anything can definitely be too much. I fully believe with what Jacob had said that a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man, and vice versa. A man cannot teach a woman how to be a woman. It's just completely different. Your mindsets are different, because they're going to be coming from a perspective of, this is how I think a man should look, or a man telling a woman, this is how I think a woman should look. And you're just trying to control the other person, and you're not celebrating them for who they are. So whether it's a close family friend, an uncle, a grandfather, or a father, men nowadays just need to step up, and they absolutely aren't. And it's sad to see. And, I've got a lot of friends who their dads have done terrible things, as in not being there or intervening too much and just having their thumbs just pressed right over them and not allowing them to grow. A great man that I follow, Ryan Mishler, he's got a company called the Order of Man, and great Facebook page, great guy. He's got a book as well. And one thing that he talked about in a conference that I saw him at, he had mentioned that you should give your kids just enough rope to hang themselves. And I kind of pondered that for a little bit. And if you start,
please explain that.
Yeah. Give them just enough rope. So
I get it.
You've got to allow them to fail. You've got to allow them to experience life, because life, a lot of people nowadays, I mean, I'm not going to point out specific people, but we know a lot of people think that life is just always going to be given to them and that it's always going to be expected of something. You've got to go out and you've got to get it. I mean, you might get a lucky break every now and then, but life is hard. Life just sucks at times. It's going to, hand you a bad deal. And some people, have the silver spoon in their mouth, but you've got to own it.
Even that come with consequences.
Absolutely. And there are consequences to, either way, an easy life or a hard life, but you've got to step up and you've got to own it and you've got to take that responsibility. For me, my version of masculinity is based off my faith in Jesus Christ, and people have a different perspective on masculinity based on their beliefs, based on their religion, or anything like that. So that's necessarily where I stand on that.
Definitely.
Here we go.
You look like you got something on your mind.
Y'all are, hey man.
You look like you got something on your brewing over there.
Hey. I will say, I don't have any wild statements to go along with. I agree with each one of you gentlemen. I will say I hate on Father's Day when women make posts saying that, giving themselves a pat on the back for Father's Day. Like, no, you are a mother. You are a great mother fulfilling the responsibility of two people because of that void. But you are a mother. You are not a father. Please allow Father's Day to be for the fathers. So, but I mean, in regards to that, I do feel, again, I don't give the single parenting an excuse to masculinity just because growing up I had friends that were single products of a single parent household, and there was like no masculinity loss just because of the way that we grew up. Now, I mean, it was the parenting, it was the environment that we grew up in, to where, you know, masculinity, you had to have that. You had to be tough. You had to, you know, be very strong as a man growing up. So I think I just think it goes all back to parenting, like just seeing how kids are raised, seeing how everything's like just given to them, like always. You cannot discipline a child how we got disciplined growing up. And I feel that is a big factor into why you have a lot of men that struggle with ownership of themselves, accountability of themselves, and kind of being tough-minded or persistent, to where it's just like with sports. I see cats play sports all the time, and like the stuff that we went through, conditioning, the hits, injuries, being hurt, injured. It's just like a good example, the NBA, how the NBA has always been 82 games forever. Like, it's always been 82 games. It's always been back-to-back. It's always been 82 games. But now, with this generation, it's an issue playing back-to-back. It's an issue. Fatigue is an issue now.
Same with football.
Like you need rest games. Like if you roll an ankle, you out for a week instead of just going out there and playing. Like it's a different temperament in these kids now, and I think is a reflection of parenting and society, to where they're not pushed to their maxes to be able to give their best in any situation. They're kind of given a pass, like, oh, that's good enough, or that's okay, you did enough, or like it's not the same expectations that we grew up with.
It's this idea of settling and not pushing you beyond what you think your limits are.
Like, speaking of that, let me just say this. And this is off on the tangent, but I hate participation trophies.
Gosh, yes.
Hey, cut it out. Because you didn't do anything. Cut it out.
My child will never take my participation trophy.
I cannot stand a participation trophy. I cannot stand a 4th or 5th place ribbon.
And I'm going to say, this is my first wild card statement. I feel parents that allow their children to feel happy off participation trophies are, one, you realize that your child is trash or whatever sport that they're doing. 2, you were probably trash in that sport as well.
Let's go,
These are not the sentiments.
So you need that for your own ego and your child's ego, because what we train in our kids is when that child gets a participation trophy in 5th grade, he gets a participation trophy in 6th grade, he gets a participation trophy in 7th grade, 8th grade. Ain't no participation trophies. You get cut. High school, you really get cut. So you don't teach your children at a young age how to deal with not making it, or how to deal with not being good enough, because with that participation trophy, they're happy.
Shouldn't it mean that you should try harder?
Yeah, it should. But kids aren't taught that. Yeah. They're taught to settle because, yes, I participated. Like, I played.
No,
you showed up. I mean, think about it. Like if you walk into a
you got out the car.
If you walk into a class,
Austin getting mad.
I didn't start.
I've got something to say. If you walk into a classroom and
he got a participation trophy.
No, I did not.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to whoever this is on Austin's. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you. If you walk into a classroom and you take a test and you fail and you get none right and you get an F, you don't move on.
Nah, I still need a sticker.
So like, how does
I need that gold star.
I sticker. I need something.
But like, how does that make any sense of like you celebrating failure? Now it shouldn't be just like, oh, you failed, like you need to get better. It's like teaching, like using that as a learning experience. Like, okay, here's where you did not measure up, but here's how you can get there. It's not, hey, just be better. It's where, here, let me show you how to get there. And you know, in school, like when you're writing down, when it's like, show your work. So you can't, for me, I hated showing my mark. It's like, I know the answer. Bam, bam, there you go. But if I got it wrong, my teacher was able to go back and say, you know what? Look here, this is where you messed up. If you just changed this right here, then you would have gotten it right then and there. So it's using those opportunities to teach you how to not fail in the future. Right. But there's nothing in this world where you just show up and that's considered a success.
Right.
Nothing.
I think like even staying on sports, because I played sports my whole life, so like the idea of masculinity comes from that whole sports background. And I think like playing sports as a kid, you have a lot of parents that get involved with the coaching decisions of the team.
Definitely.
So what happens is every parent wants their child to play the same amount of minutes, or every parent thinks their child, every parent is not a realist. Every parent thinks that their child is this superstar, their child should be starting, and that's not the case.
So real quick, let me speak to that, and that's what got me on participation trophies, because
You almost hit me in the face, by the way.
so I'm sorry, I apologize, my brother, because I told you I coached my little league team, right? So
You give out trophies?
when I played,
You give out trophies?
Yes.
unfortunately.
See, that's what I'm talking
So
about.
it wasn't my decision. When I played, right? If you couldn't play,
You didn't play.
if you trash,
You didn't play.
you rode the pond, right? So my first year, and I will say, my first year ever playing football, had no knowledge of the game. I sat on the bench. Like, our team was cold, and they wasn't finna put me in to mess it up. You know when I got in? When there was a blowout and 2-point conversions.
You was part of the 2020
Facts.
club.
Pretty much.
We called the 2020 club in basketball. 20 up, 20 down.
Yeah, no, facts.
When you clear the bench, all right, now go ahead. So when I started coaching, right, we had to, each kid had to get at least 2 plays. And we lost a game because of that. So we put one of the weaker kids on kickoff just to
Get
and
him
they
out there.
ran right by him.
Do it first play, get it done.
Ran right by
Get
him.
over it.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that got me on that. And so I feel that is part of the reason, because we're kind of like babying them.
Parents don't teach their kids how to be better.
Exactly. And for me, I feel like that, I say the way we grew up kind of almost prepared us for life, that you're not going to get a certificate or a ribbon or participation trophy just for showing up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's
Really
what
get paid for just showing up.
man, talk about it.
Listen.
But you know what I'm saying? And so that's what I feel like one of the changes is that too, because we're coddling kids now.
Real quick. So one of your viewers had asked a question, and I want to read this out loud. It said, I did grow up in a father figure in my life, but for me it was a choice to be a man that I am. Not because of my father, it was my choice. And that was actually something that I experienced so thank you so much for saying that, because that's exactly how I felt, because my father always taught me to grow up and how to be a man. But when I finally got to the point understanding what it looks like to be a man, to step up and finally realize what that looked like, there was actually one day where I said, you know what?
You got to make a choice.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a man. And I told my roommate, he's a brother to me. And I told him, I said, man, I feel like a man. And I said it confident, not like I'm a man, and that's what I'm going to feel that way. It's no, I said, Cody, I'm a man, and I'm going to walk out in that way. It's not like, well, I'm a man, I get all these women or anything like that. I'm awkward, so I don't get a lot of women. But that's not the point.
The lies.
What I was trying to get at was
DMs probably be popping.
no, they're not. Anyway,
Yes,
but
they
what
are.
I was trying to say is that I stepped up and I realized that, you know what? There are a lot of areas where I fail, and I need to take responsibility of that. My finances, and this is not in order, but my finances, my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, my everyday day-to-day responsibilities in my job, those are things that a man does. He takes care of his home. And so if I'm not preparing myself now to be a good husband, what makes me think in my deluded mind that I'm going to be a good husband when that woman finally walks in?
All right, hold on. Let's rewind. Let's bring it back. Oh, God. All right. How many guys do we have at this table that came from a single parent household? We got 1, 2. I just want to hear from you 2. Do you feel like coming from a single parent household affected you, either positively or negatively? And then I'll give my perspective on that situation. And I love the fact that Austin just talked about finance, right? And that's something that I'd like to touch on too, is even being in a relationship with a woman that makes more money than you, does that make you feel less masculine?
Is it
right?
Demasculate? Yeah.
So let's get that single parent perspective first, and then let's talk about finance.
So I think for me, being raised in a single parent household for a majority of my time, my adolescence, it was impactful to me because I was able to see
Positive or negative?
positively impacted by it and affected by it. Two reasons being, I saw how my mother struggled with having a husband and then not having a husband because of the way he was acting outside of that relationship, and what it did to her mentally and emotionally, but how she grew from it. And in a sense, I also grew along with her, realizing that, man, I don't need anybody else to be happy. I can actually do good by my damn self. But in addition to that, second, my mom was also able to find love elsewhere and was able to find a real love elsewhere as well. But to find a real man in addition to that, she found somebody who could support her mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. She found somebody that could help her financially. She found somebody that she was compatible with.
Stella got her groove.
She got her groove back and kept it. Mama still got it. Shout out, Mama.
Got her groove.
Shout out,
Hey,
Shout out
Miss
to
Stella.
Mom.
Yeah, shout out
What's
to
up?
Mama, though. Mama Smooth.
Mama Stella Miller.
to the Melage mom.
Yeah, but it's cool and it's great to see how my mom was in a position to where she was crying every day. And that's where I learned to cry. I cried with my mom, not knowing what all she was going through, but seeing how she came home and how it affected me. But then when I was able to see her stop crying because of a gentleman that came into her life and loved me like I was his own, and he still has no child that belongs to quote unquote him. He's been a stepdad all his life, but he treats me like I'm his blood. Like, that was phenomenal to me to find
That's strong.
a man who could love somebody else's child more than he loved himself.
That's so rare.
Shout out to the men that do that.
And it was impactful
Preach.
to learn from that, to see how he treated my mom, to see how he treated me, to see how he calls my grandfather, my mom's dad, his dad. And that's where I kind of learned that you don't need anybody to be happy, but you can be happier if you have somebody that's from the same chord as you, that's from the same path as you, that has the same mindset as you, that has the same, I would say, hopes and wishes and dreams as you do. That's finding somebody that my mom says is equally yoked with you.
Yes,
and I
sir.
think that she found that person. So I definitely think that being raised by a single parent impacted me positively
Okay.
on the scene that I was able to see both dimensions of it.
Okay.
So for me, I'd have to say, and I hate to straddle the fence, but I'm neutral. So I won't say positively or negatively, but what it did for me was, one, same with what Brian said. I saw my mom struggle some, and she, was able to go back to school, get her degree. Very proud of her for that. But one of the things that and so it made me not want to go through that and to know that I could push harder and make sure that I don't struggle or my family doesn't struggle. Two, what it did in the reverse was I didn't have that example of what a whole home looked like, or what a marriage, looked like, what a husband should do. And so now I'm learning on the fly. You know what I'm saying? Being married now is like you get these things, and my wife is like, "Hey, need you to do this? Need you to do that? Where's this list of stuff that
What book did this come from?
The honeydew list.
Where is this list, and why don't I know about it? And for that is because when my dad left, I was 10 years old. So I don't comprehend what I'm supposed, you know what I mean? At that age, I'm not getting, and he did stuff around the house and did, what he was supposed to do, but I'm not getting, what I'm not paying attention. I'm 10 years old. But so that's why I say I'm neutral, because there was two things I got from it. One helped me, and then one kind of has hindered me.
Okay.
And so has been a lesson for me and made me, I say work. I definitely had to work harder because I'm still playing it by ear, trying to figure it out.
And to say this and kind of add on, I also want to say that there's no book on the perfect way to parent. There's no book on the perfect way to be a spouse. There's no book on how to do these things. And even if it may be, the people who wrote it, they don't live your lifestyle. You don't live their lifestyles. It's specifically written for them, by them, and most likely to them. And so my thing is, a lot of our parents, they raised some good men here, but there's still certain things, as Mike mentioned, that we haven't learned from them. And we have to learn on the fly. And I think that that's a part of adulthood. That's a part of parenthood. That's a part of masculinity, femininity. That's a part of almost any person's life, is that even though you can write a book to do something better, experience is still a hell of a lesson. And so I think that that men, you have to learn how to be men by yourself with the help of other men. Women, you have to learn how to be women through yourself and through other positive women. I think that for any individual, you learn how to be you by living through you, your life, your experiences, your perspective, your daily occasions, and so forth and so on. So I commend every person around this table. I commend every person out there. I commend every parent, single or together with a spouse or relationship or whatever it may be, because you are who you are because of you, your experiences, what you've been through, and what you go through on a daily basis. So just shout out to y'all who are doing it.
I agree. Let me get my perspective.
All right, fact.
But what I will say is, I grew up, of course, with both my parents, but my parents have been separated for a very extensive period of time. And I'll start by saying I don't have a great relationship with my father. My father actually lives in Texas, only an hour away from me, and we haven't talked in over 2 years. Wow. Right? I don't have a great relationship with my father, but he was present. But my father was present. I don't come from a single parent household. I come from a
would you say split?
From a split household. People consider me to be what they call a latchkey kid, and that means you almost raised yourself. I come from a household where both my mother and my father worked full-time jobs. So, when I got up for school, there was nobody home because they had already left for work. When I got home from school, there was nobody home because they were still at work, right? And so we almost end up raising ourselves to a certain extent. So my parents would
making noodles for a while.
Oh yeah. My parents would come home at 7:00 at night. They bring dinner. We go to sleep, and we wake up and do the same thing over again. And so while I had a father in my life, I almost feel like he provided the bare minimum. Right? He provided a roof over my head. He kept food on the table. But emotionally, right? My father didn't do much for me. And I will say that I've longed, for a really long time for a relationship with my father. And when I start a family, I'm going to make sure that I have a great relationship with my son or my daughter, whichever that may be. But it did affect me both positively and negatively, to your point. It really taught me how a man should treat his son and how a man should treat his daughter. And it really taught me how I need to move forward with my family when I have one. So,
hey, Jacob, based off what...
Hold on. And I didn't mean to cut you off because I really got to talk on this and I'll be transparent in my own life. That is one of the things, right, that you just talked about that I have had to adjust and learn how to do. Is not only being there financially for family.
It's more than that.
It's definitely more than that.
It's more than that.
And so
that's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
That's what you're supposed to do.
And
that's the bare minimum.
So for me, I felt like I thought as long as I was providing for my family, I was good. You know what I mean?
So much more.
As long as I'm providing financially, bills paid, we got food on the table, we're good.
It's more than that.
And so there's definitely more than that. It's more than that for a spouse. You have to be there for her emotionally as well, but your kids also. And so me and my wife had that conversation. She was like, Mike, I get it. And we appreciate that. We appreciate you hustling. You go from your regular job and then you go out and you try to slang these suits. Mm-hmm. We appreciate that. But there has to be some time for your kids.
Kids want just want a relationship.
They don't see you
for your wife.
or you on your phone when, you know what I mean? And that's a struggle, of course, too, because I be on my phone.
Want daddy.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. They just want you to play with them. Yeah. Like before I came here, my daughter we was having fun, me fake chasing her around the house. And so kids need more than that. And so that's one of the things that I've had to adjust to and learn. And so that's why I had to speak to that when you brought it up. But Austin, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Well, it's really I wanted to get Jacob to speak, but Jacob and I, like, we're tight. He's a good bro of mine, and I know a little bit of about his background. And if you're comfortable with this, I'd like you to touch on talking about your relationship with Dr. Alex Ellis, because when I first met you, you introduced me, or he introduced you to me as his son. And so would you talk a little bit about that relationship, that even though you didn't have your actual biological father there, how Alex stepped in and he became a man, if not the man in your life. Would you be okay with talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll talk on that. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about being transparent. I know for a fact if this is free me, that it'll free somebody else that's listening to this. So I have a mentor in my life. His name is Dr. Alex Ellis. I met him in 2015, and he has literally changed my life. What started off as a mentor-mentee relationship has quickly developed into almost a father-son relationship.
And y'all talk every day, don't you?
We talk every single day.
That's awesome.
While I haven't talked to my dad in like the last 2.5 years, I've talked to him every day for the last 2.5 years.
Shout out to Dr. Alex Ellis.
And he's taught me what it really is to be a man. Not only do we talk about politics, not only do we talk about finance, not only do we talk about business, but we're talking about what it is to be a man. We talk about how to treat women. We talk about masculinity. We talk about spirituality. We talk about all of these things. And the relationship that I have with him is the relationship that I long for with my biological father, right? And what I will say is that it's caused a strain in the relationship that I have with my biological father, because he knows about my mentor, Dr. Alex Ellis, and he's uncomfortable with how close we are, right? And it's not that I despise my dad. It's not that I, have, any ill feeling towards my father, but he's just never been able to provide me with the emotional support that I need, right? And it's real, and that's why I'm so, adamant about the fact that men need a father figure in their life, and it doesn't have anything to do with finance.
Yep.
Like, the least that you should do is, keep a roof over my head and food on the table. That's what you're supposed to do as a man.
That's the bare minimum.
But providing that emotional support is what young boys long for, and that's where I feel like we missed the mark.
Men need men to be men.
Definitely,
man. And we're going to definitely go ahead and end it on that, man. Fellas, I appreciate you guys for chiming in and giving all your feedback. IG Live, we appreciate y'all for sending your questions, giving your feedback, and tuning in. And shout out to the place that we're recording at.
Elevated Relief.
There you go, Elevated Relief in Dallas,
James,
Texas.
shout out to
Definitely.
you, man.
Hey,
Appreciate
man,
you,
our
man.
engineer over there
bro.
holding it down, doing
this
this thing. We
guy.
got an engineer, y'all. What's
Look at
up?
that guy.
We fancy.
We got
we
it.
legit
We
now.
live, baby. We live.
We got an engineer, but we're going to go ahead and give where we can all be reached. Give your social media, starting with you, Mr. Malaj.
Hey, Mr. Malage, MISTER_MILLAGE.
All right, this is Jacob Clayton. Y'all can catch me on IG at image_ambassador.
You can find me at Gentleman's Avenue.
Find me at Calvin. That's Calvin spelled with a K.
Why you say that so smooth?
You can find me at Calvin.
Baby.
I'm the latest man.
Calvin.
They call me Mr. Two Buttons.
I be spitting that poetry. And we're going to have
And this
Calvin.
is Whispers in the Dark.
Haters gonna hate.
We're going
Haters
to have
hate.
Calvin spit one of his.
Haters gonna hate. But
We're going to have Calvin spit one of his poems one day. So y'all
ready?
be looking out for
Be
that.
ready for
But the IG is Calvin with a K. Calvin _ J on IG. Calvin _ J.
And I am Michael Taylor. You can find me on IG at Mike T the Gent. That's Mike T _ the Gent. You can also check me out on Franklin and Anthony. That is my soup company. I am a partner in with my boy Frank. Shout out to you, Quite Frank.
Let's go, Quite Frank.
And also, I'm plugging everybody. Black Dandies. We're actually having an event this weekend. So if you are in the Dallas area, please come through and check us out 3 to 7.
And show up looking good.
Yeah,
because you do look
we
good.
dress fly. It is the Dolls and
Please.
Dandies, and 3 of us here are actually black dandies. They
follow us
just alluded
on IG as well.
So follow us on IG at Black Dandies, and we definitely appreciate that. But gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. We're gonna close it out how we started it, with a toast. I
Hey.
think everybody got some in their glass.
Oh yeah.
Always ready.
So raise your glass to masculinity.
Masculinity.
Hey.
Thank y'all who got
All
involved.
right, thank y'all.